And we are now recording to the cloud, so everything that we get said or done will be able to be accessed later on. Right now, everybody has the ability to speak. If there's any general questions that we'd like to start off with, now would be the time, because later on I'm going to hit mute and then you all won't be able to talk without raising your hand.
Copy.
All right, so I'm thinking that we've yet to see Chance. I'm looking for Chance to see if he's logged in. He's not speaking up. Nobody's dinging. I've yet to see Charles. Is Charles here? I don't see Charles. I've yet to see Isaac Nesbitt. Is Isaac in here? I've yet to see Kai Stone. Is Kai Stone in here? Michael, is Circe in here? And I think I've seen everybody else at this point. All right, good deal. All right, so I'm going to hit the button that says mute all. So now the only audio y'all should be able to hear is my voice. You have the ability to unmute yourself, so you can unmute yourself if you'd like to raise your hand or interject, if that makes sense. Good deal. Well, welcome. We all understand that there's, a lot of scary things going on in the world. We're not getting together to share our germs. We're going to try to keep moving forward. A lot of that's going to involve going backwards and reviewing the test for chapter 4, moving further forward into chapter 5. I wrote out some emails basically just to let you know what's going on. I got half the class that I think is understanding the material and moving forward in a good nature. I got half the class that I think is really kind of dragging their feet, and I hate to leave anybody in the dust, but it's also not fair to the others as well. So be sure to ask the questions if you're not understanding. If you got an email from me about missing assignments or me worried about your grade, then, it's for a reason, and, we want to try to see you improve. So if there's no general questions to get us started, I'm going to hit the button that says share screen, and I'm going to try to bring up our Blackboard test from 2 weeks ago. So you all should be able to see my screen right now that is Blackboard. If anybody doesn't see that, let us know. I'm seeing some thumbs up from Andrew there. Good deal. Here comes our chapter 4 test. In the past, we went around the room and everyone got to read a question and answer. If you guys wanted to try to do that with our digital software, we can do that. If you want me to just to walk through it. Does anybody have any opinions? I don't see any remarks. Nobody's clicking the unmute button to say anything. Well, it sounds like I'll just kind of walk you through it here. So it starts off with signs and markings, good old-fashioned signs and markings. Can everybody still hearing me? Nobody's dinging. All right. So yellow on black. This is not yellow on black. This is black on yellow. Yellow background, it's a direction sign. It's indicating which direction to the right is how we find taxiway Bravo. This is a runway distance remaining sign. So how much runway is remaining? 3,000. 3,000 feet of runway is remaining. This looks like a railroad track. This is called the ILS critical area. The ILS critical area by the book is active when the ceiling is less than 800 feet. That's AGL. Or if the visibility is less than 2 statute miles. For you being a private pilot that's not instrument rated, you probably wouldn't be out flying on such a day. But this is the ILS critical area. If you was to get any piece of your ship beyond that line, you could possibly be blocking the transmission signals for the airplanes trying to get out of the clouds, shooting the ILS, instrument landing system, instrument approaches. Yellow X on the pavement, closed runway. Runway 22, it's closed. Don't land there. All right, a red sign is a mandatory sign. A red sign is a mandatory sign. So this is actually going to be a hold short. You do not cross this red sign without ATC clearance. If you're at a towered airport, you need ATC clearance to cross this line. If you're at a non-towered airport, you at least got to make a radio call. So I just went through a few questions. I'm going to click back on my Zoom app to make sure I don't see anybody trying to raise their hand. Everybody seems pretty satisfied. All right, we'll keep moving. Question number 2. You're approaching to land on a runway served by a VASI, Visual Approach Slope Indicator. You're in class Delta, Charlie, or Bravo airspace, so the pilot needs to maintain an altitude at least at or above the glide path until lower altitude is necessary for a safe landing. You don't want to be getting too low. Too low and too slow is not the way to go. This answer C looks really tempting, but it's a distractor. So this is an FAA question and you want to pass the FAA test. So the better answer is B, maintain the altitude at or above the glide path until a lower altitude is necessary for safe landing. Basically till the runway is made, which is where you pull the power to idle and, you know, glide to the runway. The reason why C is not the best, it's saying remain on the glide slope and land between the 2 light bars. Well, that could put you landing, 1,000 feet down the runway, which isn't a big deal. That's actually a pretty good spot to land. But, theoretically, a pilot could land, at the very beginning where the numbers are 1.8. They don't necessarily have to land 1,000 feet down the runway. At Eagle Creek Airport, our boss encourages us to land on the 1,000-foot markers, which would be 1,000 feet down the runway. All right, the arrows that appear on the end of the north-south runway indicate that the area, so we're talking about here, the arrows, the displaced relocated threshold. So we cannot use that area for landing. It could be used for taxiing. It could be used for takeoff. So for example, in this picture, you have a tetrahedron. This is a tetrahedron. The tetrahedron is telling us that the wind is blowing from the southwest. So if the wind is blowing from the southwest, what would be my favorite runway? It'd be runway 18. So you would point your nose to the south and you would travel on 18. When you get to the upwind, you would make a right-hand turn. That would be your crosswind. You'd make a right-hand turn for your downwind, right-hand turn for your base, and you're coming to land on final. Where can you land? The number 18, that solid line, demarcation bar. That is the spot where you can land. If you land before on the arrows, then you just did an illegal operation. Fortunately, I had a student fail a check ride over that. Not good. So arrows, you cannot use it for landing, but yes, you could use it for taxi or takeoff. So if you was back taxiing, you would actually back taxi all the way down to the end of the pavement and you would use every inch of runway for takeoff. Nobody's unmuting themselves, asking questions. All right, we'll keep moving. Same idea, select the proper traffic pattern and runway for landing. Again, the wind is blowing from the southwest, so we would like to point our nose to the south. Gosh, we would love runway 22, but what's the problem with that one? Big old X. So the X means it's a closed runway. We don't land on closed runways, so the more correct answer would be runway 18. Would it be a left or a right crosswind? It'd be a right crosswind. So we'd have a slight right crosswind for 18, and it would be right-hand traffic according to this segmented circle. So right-hand traffic for runway 18. Oh, somebody's trying to talk? Maybe? I don't think someone has a question. I'm trying to figure it out. Manage participants. All right, I guess we'll keep going. All right, a blue segmented circle on a sectional chart depicts what kind of airspace? Gosh, you'll be amazed how many folks I have missing this one. So The correct answer is D, delta airspace. And the big keywords you need to remember if you want to pass is that it is a segmented circle. So the word segmented kind of means dashed. We got a blue dashed circle. Blue dashed circle indicates delta airspace. I got a lot of incorrect answers coming up with Bravo. That would be a solid blue circle. Unfortunately, I have some people clicking Charlie. That's incorrect. Charlie would be a magenta. So a solid magenta would be the Charlie. A solid blue would be the Bravo. The segmented circle, segmented blue, call it dashed blue, would be the delta airspace. So unfortunately, airspace is a huge, huge topic. You're going to have to spend some time studying airspace. Why is it so important? It will be on every check ride you ever take, private, instrument, commercial, flight instructor, ATP, whatever. We got to get our airspace down to begin with here, which is going to be a lot of our conversations today. All right, we're on number 6. The vertical limit of Class Charlie airspace above the primary airport is normally 4,000. So that would actually be an AGL number, 4,000 feet AGL. All right, 4,000 feet AGL is Charlie airspace. You know, as I continue to work on, reviewing all your assignments, we're having a lot of confusion about AGL versus MSL. AGL above the ground level, MSL means sea level. So 4,000 feet AGL is Charlie airspace, typically. All right, I'm giving little pauses between if anybody ever needs to speak up or unmute themselves to ask a question, but we'll keep moving. If there is no apparent relative motion between another aircraft and yours, you are probably on a collision course. Well, that's a true statement. So that is what you're looking for. You're looking for relative motion. When you're scanning the sky, they call it collision avoidance, visual scanning. You're looking for relative motion. So if there's no relative motion, you're probably on a collision course. True statement. All right, number 8, the minimum safe altitude anywhere must allow for emergency landing following an engine failure without undue hazard persons, property on the surface. That's a true statement. So minimum safe altitudes, those are going to be regulations in Part 91. And the word anywhere is what you're looking for. So when you're taking this written exam and you see about minimum safe altitudes and it says anywhere, then it's just anywhere where you can make a good, safe emergency landing if the engine was to fail. That's going to be a different answer than if you're in a rural area or a congested area. This one is anywhere. All right, we'll keep moving. Number 9, true, false. Got a 50-50. A blast pad stopway area cannot be used for taxi, takeoff, or landing. That is a true statement. I got a lot of people clicking the wrong button here on this 50-50. Blast pad stopway. How is it going to be marked? We need to know that that is yellow chevrons. Yellow chevrons. We cannot land, taxi, take off. We cannot touch. Only if it's an emergency. Only if it's an emergency do we ever put our wheels on yellow chevrons. So yellow chevrons, blast pad stopway cannot be used for taxi, takeoff, or landing. That's a true statement. All right, this next one, you can see it actually says 0 points. This one was written up by one of our other instructors on a test. It's kind of a little tricky, so I got this one just as 0 points today. A VORTAC navigational facility is depicted by a blue, somewhat triangular symbol, typically surrounded by compass rose on aeronautical charts. I think that's a true statement. I've had some confusion with some of the students in the past who want to argue about triangles versus octagons versus triangles. So at the end of the day, VORTAC, VOR, is very high omnidirection and range. It's going to be a ground-based navigational facility. TAC is TACAN, that's more for military. Like a VOR would use very high frequencies, VHF frequencies, whereas the TAC side of it would be for the military. It would use UHF frequencies. And for us as civilian pilots, if there is TACAN capability, that means it probably has DME capability. So it is a blue, somewhat triangular, octagon, square shape, depending upon the actual station, and it's typically surrounded by a compass rose. I agree. that one's not going to be worth any points. You'll actually notice that on the real FAA written exam, there's actually going to be some questions that are not worth points. Usually they call those testing questions. So they're always in the process. The FAA is always in the process of updating the written exam. And so every so often, you might see a test question on a FAA exam that does not count for any points, and it's in beta mode, testing mode. So realize we're going to do the best job we can to study the FAA test question bank and study all of our prepware, but you still might possibly see questions that you had not seen before on the real FAA written test. All right, we got a true false. Airspace at an airport with a part-time control tower is classified as Delta airspace only when the tower is in operation. That's a true statement. I got a lot of people missing this one. So you got to think about it, it's a Delta airspace when the Delta tower is active. Remember, Delta is the blue segmented dashed line circle that surrounds the airport, generally 4 nautical miles wide, generally 2,500 feet AGL up. So that Delta airspace is an active Delta airspace. Remember, the entry requirements to get in Delta airspace is D Delta established dialogue. You got to talk to them. They got to repeat your tail number back. So all of a sudden, if that airspace is not in operation, if that Delta tower went to bed for night, well, now it's uncontrolled airspace. So it's probably going to revert back to something that's uncontrolled, which, would probably be like that Gulf airspace, maybe even an Echo airspace. Echo airspace is technically controlled, but your participation is voluntary in an Echo airspace. So in an Echo airspace, you don't have to participate in air traffic control services. In Gulf airspace, ATC does not give any services. And I just got a lot of people missing this one. Airspace at an airport with a part-time control tower is classified as Delta airspace only when the tower is in operation. That's a true statement. When that tower goes to bed, that surface area will convert to either an Echo or a Gulf, depending upon that situation. You could look in the AFD, Airport Facilities Directory. It's the green book. Some people call it chart supplement. I'm also thinking that when you actually study your sectional chart, when you open your sectional chart all the way, they have margins, and you can find extra information about that particular airspace in the margins of the sectional chart. All right, so I just went through like 11 different questions. Let me click Manage Participants. Looks like everybody still is here. Nobody's raising their hand or asking questions. All right, well, we'll keep trucking then. Okay, I'm on number 12. An aircraft in blank has the right of way over all other aircraft. The answer is distress. An aircraft in distress. I had a lot of y'all writing in the word emergency. I gave you the points for that. If you told me an aircraft in emergency has the right of way, that's fine. I give you the points for that. Just realize as you prepare for the written exam, the words you'd see on the ABC multiple guess test would be the word distress, an aircraft in distress. Fill in the blank. You should fly no lower than blank feet AGL over special conservation areas such as national park or wildlife refuge. The answer is 2,000 feet. That's AGL, 2,000 feet AGL, above ground level. It's amazing. I got a lot of people missing this one. Special conservation area. So that would be marked how? What is the symbology for that on the sectional? Well, it's going to be blue. It's blue ink. There is a solid blue that outlines, and then a dotted blue inside the outlined area. So special conservation area, there's actually a lot of those in our area. So keep your eye out on the sectional chart. Us pilots are requested to fly no lower than 2,000 AGL. We don't want to disturb the wildlife. All right, number 14, fill in the blank. Although you are not restricted from flying through military training routes, those are called MTR. You are not restricted from flying through a military training route, but you do need to check in with blank by calling them over a VOR, RCO, within 100 nautical miles to obtain current information regarding that military training route activity in your area. The most correct answer is flight service station. So I have a lot of people saying air traffic control. A lot of people are trying to use air traffic control as the fill in the blank answer. I'm trying to give some partial credit where I can, but you're trying to prepare for a FAA written exam, and they're going to use flight service station. So what you all need to really figure out is the difference between all these different resources that we have as pilots. So flight service station, they're going to be the ones that help you out trying to figure out the extra information about a military training route, to figure out extra information. They can give you updates on weather. They can give you updates on airspace. Whereas air traffic control, their primary responsibility is keeping the IFR airplanes separated from the other IFR airplanes. Air traffic control can possibly provide those same services to VFR aircraft, but that's only going to be on a workload permitting basis. So in this particular question, I try to give some partial credit where possible, but the more correct answer is going to be flight service station, not air traffic control. And there are lots of different ways to get a hold of flight service station. I'm seeing you guys have a lot of issues with some of that. So they're saying we could possibly do it by speaking over top the VOR, RCO. So RCO is remote communications outlet. So when you imagine that VOR box, it's a blue outline box. All the information inside the blue box on the sectional chart is describing the VOR information, whereas the frequencies on the outside of the VOR box, that would be describing you flight service station information. All right, we'll keep moving. We're on 15, fill in the blank. You're over a congested area. You're required to fly blank feet above any obstacle, horizontal radius of blank feet of that obstacle with your aircraft. So the horizontal radius should be 2,000 and the vertical above should be 1,000. So if there's, over congested area, downtown Indianapolis, there are some skyscrapers there. For us as VU, we're not permitted to go flying. You are not permitted to go flying over top of downtown Indianapolis. But if there was an airplane that was going to go flying over such an area, that aircraft would need to stay at least 1,000 feet above the highest obstacle and at least 2,000 feet horizontal from the highest obstacle. All right, over congested area, you got to keep that distance. So remember, this is part 91. This is an FAA regulation, and you're going to have to memorize the difference between congested area, non-congested area, anywhere, all the different minimum altitude rules. Okay, we're moving on to number 16. To operate as pilot in command, oh goodness, I said that wrong. To operate the pilot-controlled lighting. So pilot-controlled lighting, we're talking about the lights at the airport environment at night. How do you turn those lights on? Well, you key your mic 7 times on the specified frequency, typically the CTAF, Common Traffic Advisory Frequency, and that would turn all the lights on at maximum intensity. You would then key the mic 5 times for medium intensity, and then 3 times for the lowest intensity. So this is a really simple, basic question about how the pilot-controlled lighting system works. I have a lot of students confusing it on some of the homeworks where when you're studying the data block, on the sectional chart, if it says star L, like there's a asterisk sign and then an L, that's telling you that lighting limitations exist with the pilot-controlled lighting. Whereas when there's a physical star on top of the airport environment, then that's telling you about the beacon. So we're trying to get more straight on all the pilot-controlled lightings. And to turn the pilot-controlled lighting on, you key the mic 7 times. 5 times it's at medium intensity, 3 times it's at low intensity. All right, we'll keep moving. Oh my goodness, look at this question. Number 17. What is special VFR and when would you use one? So here they're saying an answer could be a special VFR allows a pilot to lower the visibility and cloud clearance minimums to 1 statute mile clear clouds. They are requested by the pilot when trying to get into controlled airspace under VFR conditions when the weather is below VFR minimums. I said that to get into controlled airspace under VFR flight rules when the weather is below VFR weather minimums. Basically, special VFR could only happen really in like Delta Charlie airspace. There might be a Bravo out there, but most Bravos are going to not allow special VFR. And really, I'm trying to make it really simple for you all. So what you're thinking is that in a Charlie airspace, in a Delta airspace, everybody understands the typical weather minimums should be 3 statute miles, 500 feet below the cloud, 2,000 feet horizontal from the cloud, 1,000 feet above the cloud. Okay, cool. I get it. VFR conditions. I got to stay that far away from clouds for Charlie or Delta airspace. Remember uncontrolled minimums, like a Class G airport, like that Boone County airport that's northwest of Indianapolis in Lebanon, Indiana. So that uncontrolled uncontrolled airport is Gulf. Gulf is uncontrolled 1 mile clear clouds. So that means you could have a non-instrument rated pilot scud running, flying really close to the ground, really low below the clouds, really low visibility to try to get and land at that airport that's an uncontrolled airspace. Is scud running legal? Yes. Is it safe? No. So basically, what is special VFR? Special VFR is the fact that there is a control towered airport, Charlie or Delta style airport, and you as the pilot are requesting to use the uncontrolled airspace minimums inside their controlled airspace. 1 statute mile, clear clouds. So I tried to give partial credit on that one. It's worth 2 points. I gave a lot of partial credit on that one. All right, number 18, essay. What are the equipment, pilot, visibility, and entry requirements for entering a Class Bravo airspace? Okay, well, equipment, we need to have a aircraft that has at least a Mode C transponder. Really, nowadays, you need to have ADS-B, which would be more like a Mode S transponder. Two-way radio communication, okay, sure, two-way radio communication. The bigger thing is you need to have a clearance. They need to say you're cleared to enter the Bravo. You're cleared to transition the Bravo, which is above and beyond just them repeating back your tail number. Pilot requirements. Well, to get into a Bravo airspace, you need to have at least a private pilot certificate. Yeah, you could be a student pilot with an endorsement. We're going to try to focus more on being a private pilot. And visibility, 3 statute mile, clear clouds. So I have a lot of you guys missing this one. Everybody's trying to put down 3 statute miles, and they're talking about 500 below, 2,000 across, 1,000 above. Negative, negative, negative. This is clear clouds. So the idea is that if you're in a Bravo airspace, Bravo is just so busy. Think about Chicago O'Hare. Think about Miami, very busy airspaces, JFK, New York. So air traffic control, they want to have the most positive authority over you. They want to be able to tell you to fly what altitude, what heading, what airspeed, and they want you to comply with it when they give you that clearance. So the last thing that they want to have is you say, unable, I can't take that heading, I can't take that altitude because it puts me too close to a cloud. So inside the Bravo airspace, you legally can get a little closer to the clouds. You could get closer than 500 below, closer than 2,000 horizontal, closer than 1,000 above, because it's Bravo airspace and ATC wants to be able to put you where they want to put you. But you still cannot fly into a cloud. So what do? ATC tells you to fly heading 210 and there's a cloud straight ahead. Well, then you need to communicate back to ATC and say, unable, that would put me inside the cloud. That would make me unable to maintain VFR because the VFR requirements in Bravo airspace is 3 statute miles clear clouds. So you'd probably take a deviation, slightly left or slightly right, keep your wingtip out of that cloud. So it's worth 2 points. I try to give partial credit where possible. I have a lot of people missing the fact of clearance. You must have clearance to get into a Bravo airport. I have a lot of people missing the visibility cloud clearance requirements. All right, we'll keep moving. We're on number 19. Looking at the information box on a nav aid, that'd be blue color on the sectional chart. You notice the box is bold with multiple frequencies on top. What does this box being bold indicate? This is almost more of a history lesson than anything. Years ago, we would have flight service stations based on the field. So for example, air traffic control, oh my gosh, I said that wrong. For example, in Terre Haute, not only did they have air traffic control, but in Terre Haute, they had a flight service station. So next to the air traffic control facility on the ground, they had a flight service station facility. And so when you study all of the VOR nav aid boxes in Indiana, inside the box is telling you information about that particular nav aid. Outside the box is telling you information about the flight service station for that area. The whole state of Indiana says Terre Haute, because Terre Haute is historically the flight service station for Indiana. Nowadays, all of the flight service stations are remotely located. There's a repeater tower, and it's all being remotely located to a different facility managed by Lockheed Martin. So it's more of a history lesson that years ago, having a bold box would signify that the flight service station is actually on the field at that location. Years ago, you could physically walk in there and get a real weather briefing face-to-face with the weather briefer. So again, bold box means flight service station is on the field. That is the correct book answer. What it really means nowadays is more of the fact that the flight service station shares the same name as the location of that VOR, NavAid. So again, I tried to give partial credit where possible on that one. All right, we'll keep moving. On number 20, that seems like a pretty round number. I'm gonna click some buttons. Looks like I see everybody's still active. Oh, actually, I think I might see some more people. I can probably do that on break to try to take attendance. All right, we'll keep moving then. I'm on number 20. Nobody's speaking up. Nobody has questions. Number 20, what is a runway incursion? So this is an essay. A runway incursion, any occurrence at an aerodrome involving the incorrect presence of an aircraft, vehicle, or person in the protected area of a surface designated for the landing and takeoff of an aircraft. Whew, what a mouthful. Unfortunately, it's a huge, huge topic, so you might as well commit this one to memory. What is a runway incursion? It's basically any occurrence, that involves incorrect presence of anything, whether it's aircraft, vehicle, animal, person, whatever. And if it's on that protected area of the surface called the runway, then all of a sudden that's an incursion. So air traffic control gives you clearance. You're clear to land. You're clear to take off. If they give you clearance, then that runway, that piece of pavement is yours. If anybody else puts their wingtip out on that runway, they are committing a runway incursion. It's a very huge ordeal. The FAA is very serious about it. It's a safety issue. And there's actually multiple categories of runway incursion. I think it's like A, B, C, D. This question's worth 2 points. I try to give people partial credit. Just about every there's a lot of answers that came through where everyone's talking about a crash or an actual collision. And I mean, I guess, yeah, I'll give you some points for it that, yeah, if there is a real deal collision, accident, well, yeah, that would be a runway incursion, but you don't have to have a real deal accident for it to be a runway incursion. Just the simple fact that another airplane was on your runway when you were clear for landing or takeoff is a runway incursion. And that might be something more like, A or B, whereas like when you get to like C and D and farther, well, those are the actual real accidents, differences of incidents and accidents. So runway incursion, very huge conversation. I gave partial credit where possible. Okay, 21. Essay, list 3 of the 11 ways to help avoid a runway incursion. There's a huge list in your textbook. Feel free to study that list and recite those. You guys got creative and you gave me some interesting answers that weren't necessarily on the list. I still gave credit. Where possible, I pretty much gave a lot of credit on this one. I was pretty lenient. There are a few of you all that might have partial credit. Things like, keeping your eyes open, keeping your ears open. We said using your checklists when you're not moving, doing any flight programming of the GPS system when you're not moving, completing your checklists before, having a runway airport diagram is a very big one. You could do things like ask ATC for help. You could do, that's called progressive taxi. You could ask ATC to help you out. And again, there's a huge list on page 428, and I gave a lot of good credit, partial credit where possible, even if you weren't using the exact examples out of the book. Okay, we're on 22. Which aircraft has the right of way over all other aircraft listed? Well, the answer is glider. We had options of airship, aircraft refueling. The glider has no engine, so it gets the right of way. I had a lot of people trying to click this aircraft refueling other aircraft. By the book, our answer is glider. I had a few people clicking airship. Well, airship actually, has propulsion, mechanism. The airship actually, has an engine. And so the best answer here is glider. All right, we keep moving. We're on 23. The minimum distance from clouds required for VFR operations on an airway below 10,000 feet MSL. All right, here's your 3152 rule. 3 statute miles visibility, 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, 2,000 feet horizontally. Why? Because I'm on an airway. So airways, Victor Airways, are echo airspace. Airspace everywhere else. Echo airspace is 3 statute miles visibility, 500 below, 1,000 above, 2,000 feet horizontally. That's below 10,000. What would it have been above 10,000? Well, if it was above 10,000, then it'd be 5 statute miles visibility, 1,000 below, 1,000 above, 1 statute mile horizontally. Why? Because there's no speed limit above 10,000. So the airplanes go faster, and we need to keep more distance away from clouds. How low does an airway go? 1,200 AGL. So Victor Airway, 1,200 AGL is how low it goes. Okay, we're on 24. During operations within controlled airspace at altitudes of more than 1,200 AGL, so that's telling you that you're not in Gulf, right? Because Gulf airspace typically exists 1,200 feet and below, G, near the ground, near the surface. So here they're trying to clue you. The FAA question is cluing you that you are not in Gulf airspace. During operations within controlled airspace, ECHO would be controlled airspace at altitudes of more than 1,200 AGL, but less than 10,000 MSL. The minimum distance above cloud requirements for VFR flight is 1,000 feet. So that's echo airspace, 3 statute miles visibility, 500 below, 1,000 above, 2,000 horizontal. All right, we're on 25. The minimum flight visibility required for VFR flights above 10,000 MSL, more than 1,200 AGL in controlled airspace. All right, so they're asking us about flight visibility. They're telling us we're above 10,000 MSL. Well, gosh, we know above 10,000 MSL, there's no speed limit anymore, as long as you don't break the sound barrier. If I was below 10,000 MSL, my speed limit was 250 indicated. So now that I'm above 10,000 MSL, there's no speed limit. We need to stay farther away from clouds because the airplanes are going to pop out of the clouds extra quick. They have to add this in here, more than 1,200 feet AGL, but the only reason they have to add that in there is because there are some really, really tall mountains out there. But typically in Flatland, Indiana, this part of the segment of the question is kind of distracting. So we're just above 10,000 MSL. We're in controlled airspace. That'd be echo airspace. And minimum visibility requirements is 5 statute miles. It's a very famous regulation. If you have not tabbed this one out in your FAR-AIM book, this would be 91-155. So be sure to put a tab on 91-155. Practice writing out your airspace requirements again and again. I've created a lot of private pilots, and one of the biggest things I can advise them all is to just practice writing out that airspace. It's the day of your check ride, and you're waiting on the examiner. Sit down and practice writing out your airspace. You will be asked airspace on your check ride, and I actually failed. What a bummer that was. All right, I'm seeing some of these blue lines on my screen. Are you guys seeing that?
Copy. I see the blue lines.
All right. Did I do that?
I have no clue. They just popped up. Yeah.
Is somebody else marking maybe?
Blue pencil on the left.
That's my bad, guys. I was trying to take some notes.
Oh, way to go, man. He's taking notes. Extra credit.
You can do that on the screen.
Yeah.
Apparently everyone gets to see it, but yeah.
Everyone's different color.
You can do that on a sheet of paper too. There, Haas.
You know what, guys? I'm in my PJs, wrapped up in a blanket, and I was not going to go get some paper, but now I will.
Dude, I'm not wearing pants, so. All right, you're only seeing this part, all right?
This is like on the honest hour now.
Wait, did I mess up the whole screen for everyone right now?
Yep.
You just wrote out 91.155.
I'm trying to erase it real quick.
So it seems like we've hit a little bit of a pause point here. If anybody's got any good comments other than being in their pajamas, we recommend any participation that might want to be happening right now. So it's pretty simple. I think you all can figure it out how to unmute your microphone if you want to say anything. There's buttons you can push if you want to raise your hand. I guess I'll go back to my attendance since we've got a few more people in the room now. So I was looking for Chance. Did Chance ever make it in?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Chance. We found Chance. So we'll mark that in the grade book. We found Chance. And then Charles. Did Charles ever make it in? We're still missing Charles. Isaac Nesbitt. Did Isaac make it in? I don't see that. Kai Stone. Did Kai make it? And then Michael Searcy. Okay. Well, at least we found Chance. Awesome. We're happy to have you. All right. Well, I guess we will get back to covering our test. Nobody's having any good questions or comments? All right. Do you guys see my screen again? It's looking good. I'm getting some thumbs up, some head nods. So we have made our way to number 26 for VFR flight operations above 10,000 MSL, more than 1,200 AGL. The minimum horizontal distance from clouds required is. So how do we prepare you to take an effective written test here? VFR operations above 10,000 MSL. Immediately, you think there's no speed limit. I need to stay farther away from the clouds. More than 1,200 AGL, they have to put that in there just because there's some tall mountains in the world. But other than that, we really are thinking about how we're above 10,000 MSL. So horizontal distance from clouds, well, this is the 5 statute miles visibility, 1,000 below, 1,000 above, 1 statute mile horizontal. And that's why the correct answer is 1 mile. Again, like we were saying, this is a very famous regulation, 91-155. So if you got your FAR-AIM, be sure to tab that one out. You will see that regulation again and again in pilot training. Oh my gosh, we got a picture. Yay. All right. We're going to refer to this picture. It's figure 22 and it's area 1. So here's our picture. Here's number 1. This is figure 22. So we're analyzing Sandpoint Airport. Looks like it's Sierra Zulu Tango Airport. We're analyzing that airport. It asks us about the visibility and cloud clearance requirements to operate VFR during daylight hours over the Sandpoint Airport at what? 1,200 feet AGL. Interesting, okay? So first thing we need to analyze is Sandpoint Airport. Sandpoint Airport is magenta in color, so this is an uncontrolled airport in the fact that there is not any control tower. There's no control tower here. The next big thing you all need to pick up on is this magenta shaded ring. Fuzzy shaded magenta. Fuzzy shaded magenta. What does fuzzy shaded magenta mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. It means that the division line between our Gulf and our Echo airspace is going to be at 700 feet AGL. So inside this fuzzy shaded magenta, the division line between the Gulf airspace, uncontrolled, near the ground, the Gulf airspace below, which is 1 mile clear clouds where scud running can legally occur, the division line between Gulf and Echo is 700 AGL. So in our question, the question text asked us, what airspace are we in at 1,200 AGL? So if the division line between Gulf below, Echo above, the division line is at 700 AGL, when I'm asked the question, what's going on at 1,200 AGL, I am inside of Echo airspace. So 1,200 feet above Sandpoint Airport, I am inside of Echo airspace. Echo airspace is 3 mile visibility, 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, 2,000 feet horizontal. That's what's going on at 1200 AGL above Sandpoint Airport. So I go down and I check out my possible answers. And 3 miles visibility, 1,000 feet above, 500 feet below, 2,000 feet horizontally. That is the visibility in cloud clearance for hours over Sandpoint Airport. If you wanted to be extra tricky, they would talk about, you know, what if you were 500 feet above Sandpoint? Well, if I was only 500 feet above Sandpoint, then I would be in Gulf airspace, and that's uncontrolled. 1 mile clear clouds. Since we got this particular figure in front of us, let's analyze another airport. This airport underneath my mouse right now, they have a segmented magenta circle. Dashed magenta. Dashed magenta indicates that the echo airspace goes all the way to the surface. Dashed magenta, the airspace goes all the way to the surface. So at this airport, it is echo airspace all the way to the surface. So there really is not legal scud running that should be happening at this particular airport. So at this airport, when you're 1 foot off the ground, your 91-155 VFR cloud clearance requirements is 3 statute miles, 500 below, 1,000 above, 2,000 horizontal. All right, while we got this sectional, this figure up, here comes another airport. Our airport here underneath our map, underneath my mouse. The airport here underneath my mouse. This airport does not have any markings. There's not a dashed magenta. There is no markings that indicate anything about airspace. So when there is no markings, that indicates the fact that the division line between Gulf airspace is 100 AGL. So at 1,200 AGL, the division line exists for Gulf near the ground beneath and the echo airspace above. So if you was in, you might get a possible question on the written exam that said you're in the traffic pattern at this airport underneath my mouse would actually be the Gulf airspace because I'm below 1,200 AGL. So that'd be 1 mile clear clouds. So if you're not picking up on it, it's the fact that, gosh, this airspace is support wall either. So we really got to be good about our airspace. All right, we're probably going to try to get through a few more questions. We'll try to get through a few more questions, and then we'll be, you know, taking our break so everybody can have a bathroom break. Let's see if we can get through this one. Again, the same figure, 22. This time, we're going to refer to Area 1. The visibility and cloud clearance requirements to operate at night over Sandpoint Airport less than 700 AGL. This is a tricky question here. So what's happening is that Sandpoint Airport, we got the fuzzy shaded magenta. The fuzzy shaded magenta tells us that the division line between Gulf airspace below and echo above happens at 700 AGL. So if I am less than 700 AGL, I'm in Gulf airspace. Well, goodness, if this was daylight time, I would think 1 mile clear clouds. But this question is being tricky because it says it's nighttime. So scud running is not as easy to do in the dark. So the idea is that if it is nighttime, that Gulf airspace, the rules look awfully familiar as the same rules that happened in the echo airspace. 3 miles, 1,000 feet above, 500 below, 2,000 feet horizontal. So I intentionally picked this one out and put it in front of you because if you see this one on the written exam, and I hate for it to throw you through a loop. So right here, the big difference is the word night. So the fact that it's a nighttime operation, the rules for golf daytime versus nighttime. That's the big lesson you're trying to pick up here. All right, we'll keep moving. Maybe try to get through another one here before we take a break. Oh, look at all the airspace here. We got all sorts of colors. So let's start here by looking at the blue. The blue crosshatch. This is restricted airspace. Restricted airspace. The whole idea of restricted airspace is that in general, you should plan to fly around it, above it, below it, whatever it takes to not go into it. Typically, we do not fly into restricted airspace. Prohibited airspace is even worse. With a P, prohibited, you can't ever fly through prohibited airspace. Restricted, generally, we plan to try to avoid it. Now, restricted airspace, it's possible that it may not be active. It might not be hot. It's possible that you could actually fly through restricted airspace if the controlling facility tells you that you're allowed, if they give you clearance. If they tell you it's not hot, it's not active, and you're allowed to go through it, by all means, then you can go through restricted airspace. But in general, you would think restricted, I should probably try to plan to go around it. What you notice here is that they have an inner core of a restricted area, that's R5401. There is then a larger circle restricted area, that's R5402. And then we have the even larger shapes for like restricted area 5403 ABC, restricted 5403 DEF. So depending upon the day, depending upon the operations, they can make certain pieces active and not other pieces. This is kind of confusing. ABC, DEF. It's probably because it's the same shape but different altitudes. So maybe A would be the higher or lower altitudes, and they could again turn on or off the restrictions for those particular special use airspaces. We're also again seeing here in this new figure some more examples where we can apply the information that we were tested on earlier, such as here the National Wildlife Refuge. We can see the solid blue with the blue dots on the inside. We can see here this magenta crosshatch. Remember, your magenta crosshatch was for the MOA, Military Operations Area. Can we enter MOA? Yes, we can. There is no, restriction. We can enter an MOA, but we need to exercise extreme caution. Exercise extreme caution. There might be military aircraft inside the MOA practicing their dogfights, breaking the 250 knot rule. All right, let's read the question. Refer to figure 26, area 2. So I'm studying area 2, Cooperstown Airport. We can already see that Cooperstown Airport has a fuzzy magenta shaded circle. What does that mean? The Gulf airspace near the ground is separated from the Echo airspace above at 700 AGL. So area 2, less than 700 AGL, I'm in Gulf. Above 700 AGL, I'm in Echo. The day VFR, visibility, and cloud clearance requirements to operate over the town of Cooperstown after departing and climbing out of the Cooperstown Airport at or below 700 AGL. Well, if I'm at or below 700 AGL, that puts me in the Gulf airspace, the go kill yourself minimums near the ground, which would be 1 mile visibility and clear clouds. So you'd be right over top the town of Cooperstown. You just took off. And goodness, if you're less than 700 AGL, you're still in the Gulf airspace. ATC simply cannot provide services when you're that close to the ground. They can't get good radar contact on you, and it's uncontrolled airspace. So you just got to do your best to maintain VFR, which in this case is 1 mile visibility, clear clouds. When you get to the higher altitudes, then you can get more services from ATC. This particular figure has a few other interesting elements to it that we could study. What are some other things we're seeing here? You see this blue, it's like a shaded blue. So like a fuzzy shaded blue. That's telling you that we are seeing the division line between Gulf and Echo at an abnormally high altitude. So For review, I'll explain it again. Typically, if I had an airport right here, this airport here, underneath my mouse, there is not any fuzzy shaded magenta nearby. So the division line between Gulf below and Echo above is 1200 AGL. Okay, cool, I get that. Here, this airport under my mouth, there is a fuzzy shaded magenta circle. So the division line between Gulf and Echo is at 700 AGL. Okay, we've covered that, sure. Now we're seeing some new abnormal blue markings. So when you see like the blue fuzzy shaded or possibly these blue zigzags, zipper lines, they call them zipper style blue, they're showing you that the division line between the Gulf and the Echo airspace are at an abnormally high altitude. In this case, 3,400. You also see a little bit of that happening down here. With the advent of the ADS-B technology, you're seeing a lot of this disappear. You might find it maybe more in mountainous areas. You might find it near coastal areas. You might find it near international boundary areas. We don't see a lot of these markings on our flatland Indiana sectional maps. But if you ever did receive a question about this fuzzy shaded blue or these zipper style blues, that's explaining to you the abnormally high division line for the Gulf and Echo airspaces. All right, so I'm at 11:28 and we're at number 30. Looks like we're more than halfway through our scroll screen. I'm gonna open up our Zoom browser again. And I'm just kind of gonna turn it over to y'all. Do you guys have any general thoughts, questions, comments, feedback for me? Anything that we're thinking about? All right. Well, at this point, we're going to hit pause. We're going to take a 10-minute break. We're going to let everybody use the bathroom, grab a snack, whatever you got to do, and we'll keep on going with our test when we get back.
What are you laughing at, Isaac?
Oh, nothing. Just inside.
I think he's laughing at me there, Bo.
Cameron, how'd you get the
Inside joke.
California?
Don't worry about it.
Bro, you can upload your own pictures. So tomorrow, I'm uploading myself in a plane.
You got a green
Dude,
screen.
what? Hold
I've
on,
been
how'd you
messing
do
with this
that,
the whole
Cameron?
time.
Shit.
Wait, what?
Cameron, how'd you do that, bro?
It's like I'm on my iPad, so it's like it says more, and then I have like a list of like random shit, and then virtual background.
Where do you get virtual background from? Like
It's just a setting in more.
I got
like a dot, dot, dot.
I got an iPad too, so it's setting in more.
Yeah, more, and then you can virtual.
Oh, get out of here, dude!
Yeah, I have an iPhone, so the phone can do it too.
Oh, this is fun.
Space, dude. That's it.
Nice.
Technically, I can't breathe right now.
Oh my god.
Where is it? Oh, it's right here. Look.
I don't have any good pictures in like my camera roll, or else I'd change it.
Oh, you can upload stuff too. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and you can mess with the green screen. That's hilarious.
Wait, is this?
Dude, I'm gonna
Oh my
upload.
God.
I'm on an airplane. Welcome to Delta.
I'm gonna upload a picture of me in Holly Berry's bedroom.
Oh my god.
What's mine?
Dude, it's Dylan.
You guys are dorks. Yeah, that's pretty cool though.
I like Jake's. He's on the airplane.
Good afternoon, ladies.
I can't find Jake. Oh, there you go.
Oh wait, I have a better
Why
one.
is your face sideways?
That is kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. Technology's come a long way.
What up? I got a better one.
Somebody find like a picture of a crime scene and just put it behind you.
Oh look,
Yeah, you just chill.
library I found on the internet.
Oh my god.
Mine's pretty solid.
What is it?
It's a pretty solid one there, Jake.
I'm in the school's library, guys. You can't keep me.
Yeah, he literally has a picture of the school library. Look, his
What?
background.
Right there.
What in the world?
Yo, bro, how the hell did you get in the library?
Let's go. He's in the park.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Gonna freak out. Dude.
Oh my god.
Freaking,
Oh man.
he's over there like crocodile hunter.
Hell yeah.
Jake's over there like crocodile hunter, like crikey.
That is ridiculous.
Where are you at, Jake?
I'm in the school library.
Somewhere in like, it was in Nashville.
Oh, dope.
Oriental Park.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Just
This
like,
is awesome.
Hey,
Let me
come
see
here.
more.
Hi, come here. Come here.
I don't even.
Cameron
Remember,
looks like he's
everything-
homeless in
You
San
gotta
Francisco.
remember, by the way, everything that's happening right now is being.
That's true.
Record it.
Look at this chonky dog.
Dude, that dog is fat.
Nah, he's thick.
She thick.
He a thick ass boy.
Damn, boy.
Damn boy, you thick. He a thick ass boy.
That dog is bigger than you, Cameron, for real.
She does not like it.
Dude, I watched the movie 2012 for the first time last night. That movie's crazy.
Really?
About 8 years later, but yeah, it's a little nuts.
Only 8 years later.
Wait, why is your stuff going invisible whenever it gets on the screen? What?
Damn.
Let's see if I can
Have you
find a
guys
picture
seen-
of planes.
Have you guys seen Don't F with Cats?
Bro, that
On
show's
Netflix.
crazy.
Isn't it?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
there's nothing for me to see on the internet anymore. I think I've seen it all.
Well, okay, that girl's annoying though. Like the main lead girl.
Oh, I didn't mind so much of it. It was just the entire the whole premise of the movie. I was just like, this guy is sick in the head, and I was like, where did this stain from? And then they get a glimpse of his mother, and I'm just like, there it is. Kids, man. The Last OG.
Oh, that's a good movie. That's a good thing too.
Oh my God, I love that TV show. Went through the entire season, 2 seasons in a day. I'm either gonna come out of this thing like seriously depressed, really fat, or an alcoholic, and I'm already
dude, you need to watch
2 of those.
Oh my God.
I'm just gonna go back and watch this recording. It's gonna be entertaining.
Next thing, I'm gonna be as thick as that dog.
Bro, that's my buddy's dog. She's chonky, bro.
Damn, boy.
Damn, boy.
She's thick. Oh, that's a thick ass boy.
That's a thick ass boy. Damn.
I love being at the ATC, man.
We should all just get like that. Just get the ATC.
Exactly. It's like we never left.
Tomorrow I'm gonna dress up like I'm in Antarctica and have like a blizzard in the background. Look freezing, guys.
Cameron, honestly, dude, you look homeless in San Francisco.
Damn, okay.
Hey, that's the place to be homeless, I guess. He's got the serious on there.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, that's what we need. We need to all get into airplanes.
Yeah. This is so fun.
I got it. I'm gonna try to find a picture with Rob Peters.
Everybody's
I actually have one, Jake.
Oh
I'm gonna get a picture of me and the set of family.
This is with me and Rob.
Guy.
Why is Andrew?
We get off the wing.
No.
Or since everyone's so like snippy about all the spring breakers, you like dress in like a board shorts and sunglasses and be on the beach.
Andrew's being quiet.
What?
Andrew hasn't said nothing, hasn't done nothing. Come on.
In fact, Mason hasn't talked.
Mason's a tired boy.
Mason is tired.
You guys hear me all right?
Chance, you just chill out.
Yep.
Wait.
So we're trying to give everybody a chance to use the bathroom, human needs, things of that nature. I think I've already tried to take attendance a few times. If you're somebody that's joining me late, now would be a time to try to speak up if you want to try to receive any points in my grade book for logging in. Has anybody got any feedback, any good, bad, ugly, anything, for our newness that, I could do differently?
Let me think.
Yeah, that's a topic I got to think about too, because it's all brand new, so it's just moment.
You think it's a better thing for me to like read the questions, like, versus us going around the room like before? Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, for this, yes.
Time.
I mean,
For this, absolutely, just because we're gonna get lost in translation.
Sure. And then it's just going to be more time consuming. Sure. Who's got a question? They raise their hand. Oh, now you got to unpause them. Oh, now I gotta mute them again.
And we can't even see each other like actually physically. So
yeah. Everybody's able to communicate if they want to. Like, I'm gonna check the Slack chat. I don't see anybody speaking up there, so I guess I should open up my email real quick before I go on. Maybe somebody's emailing me, having troubles.
Did anyone else have troubles trying to get it to work earlier? Like at 10:30, didn't want to load.
I ain't
No.
got any troubles.
I'm in prison, guys.
Nick, did you get my Slack message at all when I did the test or no?
I got it. I got it.
I got it.
Okay.
Dylan, are you in prison or something?
Yeah, I'm in prison.
Okay. I looked, it's like, wait a minute.
Wait, what?
Yeah, go to prison. In the gulag. Jake's just chilling in the library.
Wait, how do you pull up the separate person and just watch them?
I'm just on like whoever speaks it pops up.
Yeah,
If you double tap whatever screen up top, so like say you double tap John, it'll just pop his screen up, and any interruption, like if anybody else accidentally speaks like that, they won't show up.
Oh, really?
Whatever screen you double tap, it'll just keep that screen.
I'm gonna do that, man. Thank you.
I'm just staring straight right now.
Real quick, did anybody else have a problem when he was talking about air that his voice would cut out and all of a sudden it would speed up?
Yeah.
Or was that just me?
Yeah, that happened too.
You guys were catching that too?
Yeah.
So it's
I
kind
thought
of
it was my
random.
Yeah, I'm guessing it has something to do with the banding or the Wi-Fi, what have you. But I just wanted to bring that up to attention because there was a part. It was like around. I was timing it too, and it was around 44 minutes that it kept cutting out there. Sure, so you would just speed up, and I would miss a portion of what you would say. So.
Yeah, I mean, I try to repeat myself a few times if that's helpful. And, you know, if you think that we missed something that, you know, you want me to repeat, you know, unmute your microphone and say something in the moment if you think it's, you know, I'm not repeating it enough, or hopefully it was something that we've said a few times, or maybe, gosh, I'm doing my best and I appreciate the heads up. Well, if nobody else has a whole lot to say or go on here, I'm going to hit the button that says mute all. And you have the ability to unmute yourself. So if you want to speak up, you just got to unmute yourself or hit a button, whatever it can be. I'm going to hit the button that says screen share. And you want to see, that's my email. You want to see this one. So can somebody affirm to me that you guys you see the test right now? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's good.
You get some thumbs up. Somebody saying yes. Awesome. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Perfect. Well, I think we're on the right track. Appreciate your patience. We're reviewing our test in hopes that, you know, the people that are missing the questions get another chance to hear the information. And from there, we'll be moving forward into chapter 5. So here we are. We're on number 30. The basic VFR weather minimums for operating in an aircraft in a class Delta airspace. Should be 3 miles visibility, 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, 2,000 feet horizontal. Now they put it as 1,000 foot ceiling. Aha. So what you're seeing here on this written test is that they want you to understand the definition of VFR. So we know marginal VFR. Marginal VFR is 1,000 to 3,000 foot ceilings. It's a range. So if it's less than 1,000 foot ceiling, we're in IFR conditions. So if you want to have a basic VFR operation, VFR, you're going to need at least 1,000 foot ceiling, 3 miles visibility. Because we're in Delta airspace. It's controlled airspace. There's no G Golf scud running. That's number 30. Delta airspace, typically it's 4 nautical mile radius. Typically it's going to be 2,500 foot altitude, AGL. Delta airspace, it's blue, segmented, dashed circle. All right, we're moving on. Number 31. During operations outside controlled airspace, altitudes more than 1,200 AGL, but less than 10,000 MSL. The minimum flight visibility for VFR flight at night. Well, 3 miles visibility. This one's a little tricky because they're saying operations outside controlled airspace. So they're telling us that this is a Gulf uncontrolled airspace. However, this type of airspace is not going to exist in Flatland, Indiana. It's a Gulf airspace, but here they're telling us it's more than 1200 AGL. And then they're telling us that it's night. So it's a tricky question because they're actually giving you a Gulf airspace. However, they're telling you that it's night and that it's above 1200 AGL. On that previous figure that we studied, it would be like the blue shaded fuzzy. They're telling you that the division between Gulf and Echo is at a higher altitude than typical. So regardless, we get the answer of 3 miles visibility. The cloud clearance from clouds there would be 500 below, 1,000 above, 2,000 horizontal. 91,155, that's the source of this information. Okay, we're on 32. Outside controlled airspace. The minimum flight visibility for VFR above 1,200 AGL, below 10,000 MSL during daylight. Okay, so that one, outside controlled airspace. So we're in Gulf airspace, but because we're Gulf airspace above 1,200 AGL during daylight, this is a very tricky one. This type of airspace would be 1 mile visibility, but it would actually be 500 below, 1,000 above, 2,000 horizontal. So that would be the correct answer for that piece of airspace. It is a Gulf uncontrolled airspace, but it's awkward because it's above 1,200 AGL. It is daylight. So it's 1 mile visibility, 500 below, 2,000 above. I said it wrong. 500 below, 1,000 above, 2,000 horizontal. 91,155. All right, run number 33. A special VFR clearance authorizes the pilot of an aircraft to operate VFR while within Class D airspace when the visibility is at least 1 mile, clear clouds. So what is special VFR? It's where the air traffic control at their control tower zone let you operate using the uncontrolled minimums, 1 mile clear clouds. But you're actually in a control zone, so they have to give you permission. They have to give you special VFR clearance to do that. Number 33. All right, we're on 34. What are the minimum requirements for airplane operations under special VFR in class Delta at night? So we got special VFR. Our special VFR is happening in Delta airspace, and it's happening at night. We need to know what the minimum requirements for that is. The pilot must be instrument rated, and the airplane must be IFR equipped. So what you're learning is that special VFR during daylight hours, the pilot does not have to be instrument rated. So during daylight hours, the pilot does not need legally to be instrument rated for special VFR. But at nighttime, the pilot needs to have an instrument rating and the airplane must be IFR equipped. Why? Because it's harder to see at night and you're already doing something that seems extra risky, special VFR, where you can't see very well. So special VFR, huge conversation in the world. Some people say we shouldn't even have it. Long story short, it exists. It could be useful in emergency type situations and icing type situations, lots of weather situations. And if it's at nighttime, the pilot must be IFR and the airplane must be IFR. Special VFR. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, I had a lot of students missing this one. So here's our, it says WindSock airport landing indicator. So this is basically a segmented circle. In this particular example, it looks as if the airport has 2 runways. They have a north and south piece of pavement. We'll call that 18 and 36. We have an east and west piece of pavement. We call that 9 and 27. This is called a wind cone. Let's call it a wind sock. The wind, the larger mouth opening is telling us where the wind is coming from. And then the smaller opening is showing you where the wind is blowing towards. So the idea in this particular example, if north is up, it's telling us that we are actually seeing a wind from the northwest. We are seeing a wind blow from the northwest towards the southeast. So us as pilots, we would like to land with our nose possibly to the west, which would be runway 27, or we could possibly land with our nose to the north. Call that 36. If we landed to the north, runway 36, we would have a left crosswind. And according to this segmented circle, we'd make a left-hand turn for crosswind, a left-hand turn for downwind, a left-hand turn for base, and a left-hand turn for final. If we was going to use runway 27 and we took off with our nose pointing to the west, 27, we would have a right crosswind on takeoff. We would make, according to the segmented circle, we'd make a right-hand crosswind leg, a right-hand downwind leg, a right-hand base, final. So let's see what possibilities we have here. Refer to this figure 50. The segmented circle indicates that the airport traffic is, we have three options. Our correct answer is left-handed for runway 36 and right-handed for 18. So 36, you point your nose to the north, like you're taking off to the north using runway 36, and you're seeing that we have left-hand traffic, left crosswind, downwind, left base, final, because we make left-hand turns. That would be for runway 36. That was the first half of this answer. Left-hand traffic pattern for runway 36 and right-hand traffic pattern for runway 18. So if I imagined that my nose is going to go pointing to the south, and I go pointing to the south, and I start traveling south, it shows that I would make a right-hand turn, right-hand crosswind. There's my right downwind, make a right-hand turn for base, a right-hand turn for final. So that's why the correct answer for A. Why is B wrong? It says left hand for 18. Well, that's wrong because if I point my nose going south and I just try to make a left-hand turn, I'm not following the segmented circle. Answer choice C, right hand for runway 9. So if I go pointing to the east, 090, and you make a right-hand turn, you're not following the segmented circle. So right there, A is the correct answer. I had a lot of students missing this one. If we keep moving, this is number 36. It's the exact same figure. The traffic patterns indicated in the segmented circle have been arranged to avoid flight over an area to the blank. So it could be to the south of the airport, the north of the airport, or the southeast of the airport. Well, south and north, there's still going to be airplanes that go flying north of the airport. There's still going to be airplanes flying around south of the airport. The correct answer choice, southeast of the airport, if you imagine down here being southeast of the airport, all the turns of this traffic pattern of this segmented circle have been oriented so that way the pilot does not fly over this area southeast of the airport. So maybe there's a hospital there. Maybe there's some tall buildings, obstructions there. There's something that is southeast of the airport, and they have arranged the traffic patterns for this area to avoid pilots flying at low altitudes, takeoffs and landings, traffic pattern work southeast of the airport. All right, we'll keep moving. Number 37, same figure. The segmented circle indicates that a landing on runway 26 will be with and we want to know, is it going to be a right, a left? Is it going to be a headwind? Is it going to be a tailwind? It says runway 26. Call it 26, call it 27. We're saying that when we fly our airplane, we're going to be pointing our nose towards the west, westerly, 260, if you will. As this airplane moves westerly, 260, it shows that the crosswind will be from the right because the wind is from the northwest. So as you take off or land and your nose is pointed westerly, 260, 270, the crosswind will be from the right because the windsock is showing us that the wind is from the northwest. So it's telling us here that if we use runway 26, we'll actually have a right quartering headwind. All right, we'll keep moving. 38. When turning onto a taxiway from another taxiway, what is the purpose of the taxiway directional sign? It indicates designation and direction of taxiway leading out of an intersection. So the key words to remember here to get through the test, you're turning onto a taxiway from another taxiway. What's the purpose of a directional sign? Well, it's showing you what the direction, the designation, the direction of where these taxiways lead to, out of this intersection of taxiways. Why is B wrong? B wrong says that there's a runway. Nowhere in this question did it talk about a runway. Why is A wrong? It's talking about runway. Nowhere in this question did it say anything about runways. These are all taxiway signs and taxiway questions here for 38. All right, we'll keep moving. 39. The yellow demarcation bar. Yellow demarcation bar. That marking indicates runway with a displaced threshold that precedes the runway. Yellow demarcation bar. Runway with a displaced threshold that precedes the runway. So basically, this is the yellow arrows. Remember we talked about relocated thresholds, displaced thresholds. You can use those yellow arrows for takeoff or for taxi, but you're not supposed to use them for landing. You don't want to land until you're at the yellow demarcation bar. So a hold line would be a hold short line. That would be a double solid, double dash. This is a yellow demarcation bar we're talking about. The problem with the answer choice C, it says it's the beginning of the available runway for landing. That's not a bad answer, but it says on the approach side. That's incorrect. Yellow demarcation bar, runway with a displaced threshold that precedes the runway. That's number 39. Okay, we keep moving. Number 40. Oh, refer to figure 64. So here's our figure above. There's a lot going on in this figure. Which symbol indicates a taxiway / taxiway intersection? Hold. Position marking. Well, the answer is E. E is a single dash yellow. So to get this question correct, we really got to analyze what are we looking for? We're looking for symbology. What symbol indicates taxiway to taxiway intersection? Hold. What's the marking? And so that is a single yellow broken line. Call it dashed, call it segmented, single yellow. So the idea here is that there might be two different aircraft using this taxiway structure. You could have one aircraft sitting here at number 4 trying to travel north, and you could have another aircraft sitting here under my mouse that's trying to approach the intersection as well. So air traffic control, ground, they might give the aircraft at number 4, they might tell this aircraft to hold short of taxiway alpha. 4-1 Victor uniform, hold short of taxiway alpha for the 737 crossing ahead. So all of a sudden, you and your Cirrus would need to hold here before the dashed yellow while the Boeing 737 drives through the intersection. So this is a taxiway intersection hold, and it is a single yellow dash. While we have this particular figure and chart in front of us, we would be wise to go ahead and study a few of the other markings on this airport. A double solid yellow indicates the edge of the taxiway. The double side of the double solid yellow means that you do not drive your airplane beyond the double solid yellow. If you drive your airplane over that, this area beyond the double solid yellow is not designed for aircraft. You have a double dashed yellow. The double dashed yellow, again, is edge of taxiway. It is the edge of the taxiway. However, the other side of the double dash yellow is usable for aircraft. So yes, you could drive your airplane beyond the double dashed yellow. That is correct. What are some other big study points? Here it looks like a ladder. That would be called the ILS critical area. ILS critical area, instrument landing system. So if the airport was IFR, or if by the book, less than 800 ceiling, 2 miles visibility, the definition of IFR is actually 1,000-foot ceiling, 3 miles visibility. But the ILS critical area is active. And if you get beyond that ILS critical area hold marking, your aircraft could possibly be blocking the view for the instrument landing system, for the airplanes trying to land on the runway to get out of the clouds. Here is one of the most famous markings, double solid, double dash. Double solid, double dash, yellow. That is the hold short. Very similar to the idea of a stop sign, the markings on the pavement. We also see a hold short down here underneath my mouse. We also see a hold short here under my mouse. So there's several different hold shorts for several different reasons. Right here under my mouse on the north side of this airport, you're seeing a hold short. This is designating the difference of a runway versus a taxiway. Remember, you can dash through the dashes. So if you just landed on this runway and you wanted to exit the runway, you can dash through the dashes, go through the dashes, and you are now clear of the runway environment. If that same airplane did a 180-degree turn and started heading back for the runway, now the aircraft would encounter the double solid. The double solid designates that you cannot cross without clearance. If you're at a towered airport, you need to have clearance from air traffic control before you can cross the double solids. Let's study this hold short line down here on the south side of the airport. This hold short line is designating the difference of a runway to another runway. So it's a runway versus runway hold short marking. So this would be more used for the LAHSO, L-A-H-S-O, land and hold short operations. So there's possible that if there was an airplane flying from the east towards the west to land on this westerly runway, that they might receive a clearance. 41 Victor Uniform, you're clear to land runway 27, hold short 19. And so then that airplane could land on the runway, but they'd have to get on the brakes and they would get a full stop before they cross the double solids. So this hold short line is designating the difference of runway to runway, whereas the northern hold short line is giving this the designation of the runway to the taxiway. Remember, runway markings are white, taxiway markings are yellow. These yellow lights beside the hold short line, a lot of pilots call them wiggle waggles, and they're at fancy new airports. They're just extra signage and lights to help prevent pilots from busting through hold short lines. Okay, this brings us to the single solid, single dash yellow. This is called the movement non-movement boundary. The movement non-movement boundary. On one side of the line, air traffic control controls all movements. On the other side of the line, ATC does not control the movements. So the single solid yellow, single dash yellow, that is the movement non-movement boundary line. Remember, you as the pilot can dash through the dashes. So you just landed your airplane, you dash through the dashes, you contact ground control. Ground control tells you you're clear to taxi to the terminal. You're taxiing to the terminal. You can dash through the dashes. You can dash through the dashes. You make it to the terminal. You can use the bathroom, top off on gas, whatever you got to do. When it's time to leave, you want to get back out to the runway. You make it to a solid yellow. You cannot cross that solid yellow until you call air traffic control. In this case, it would be ground. You need to call ground control to get clearance to taxi. Ground control will give you clearance to taxi. And then after ground control gives you a clearance to taxi, you can make it all the way up to the hold short line for the runway. You would then have to call air traffic control tower to get clearance for takeoff. So we're learning about all the different markings. Single solid, single dash is the movement, non-movement boundary area. On one side of the line, you must receive clearance to move. On the other side of the line, you can move freely. That's taken us to these white markings. These markings are called vehicle roadway. Vehicle roadway. So the idea is that you might have, the porta potty truck that cleans out the airplanes. You might have the baggage cart handling truck that's going to rescue baggage. You might have the fuel truck that's going to drive fuel around. There's lots of different vehicles, that ground tugs, that need to drive around on the airport property. So these are vehicle roadways. They are not necessarily designed for your airplane. Your airplane is not necessarily designed to follow these vehicle roadways. These are for vehicles, not aircraft. Where possible, when it happens, if a vehicle roadway occupies the same piece of pavement that an aircraft occupies, they will put it as a zipper style edge. A zipper style edge. The zipper style edge is showing you the vehicle roadway and how it could possibly conflict with your driving of the airplane, taxiing the airplane. If there's an area where that vehicle roadway on the ground does not interfere with your taxiing, then they will use just a solid edge for the vehicle roadway. So in general, if you're driving around and you see a solid edged vehicle roadway, chances are your airplane is not in the correct place it's supposed to be in anyway. Because if you're driving and taxiing around and you encounter a vehicle roadway, it should actually probably have the zipper style lines, which would indicate the possible conflict between the ground vehicle and the aircraft. And just like anything else, give the right of way if there's ever a question, but theoretically your aircraft would have the right of way over a ground vehicle. But again, it's better to give the right of way than take it. So there's a lot of things that we just covered here on this chart here. So I'm going to click the button and I'm going to see, does anybody have any questions about any of that we just covered? There's a lot there on that chart. All right. So that's how we said the taxiway versus taxiway intersection hold marking. That is a single dashed yellow. And that's echo. E right here, echo. All right, we're moving on to number 41. 41, which marking indicates a vehicle lane? So Charlie, whether it's the solid edge because the vehicle lane does not interfere with aircraft movement, or whether it's the zipper style edge because it possibly could occupy the same space. But regardless, both of those are vehicle roadways, vehicle lanes, Charlie. All right, that was 41. We're moving to 42. When approaching a taxiway holding lines from the side with the continuous lines, the pilot should not cross the lines without ATC clearance. So I didn't write this question. It's an FAA question. I think they could have worded it better, but the whole idea is that when you're approaching a hold short line, just, whether it says taxiway hold, runway hold, whatever it says, if it says hold, if you're approaching some sort of hold short line and you're on the continuous side, the pilot should not cross the lines without ATC clearance. If it was dashed, you could dash through the dashes, but if it's continuous, you need some sort of clearance to cross. So that would be very similar to this one right here, the hold short lines, double solid, double dash. Do not cross this double solid, double dash until you have clearance from ATC if you're at a towered airport. If you're at a non-towered airport, you at least need to make a radio call before you cross the hold short line. Do not cross those lines without ATC clearance. All right, 43. What is the purpose of the runway/runway hold position sign? And C denotes intersecting runways. So really pay attention to runway/runway, hold position sign. That would be very similar to D, delta here in our previous figure. And you are driving on one runway and you're about to drive over another runway. If you are cleared for your operation, that's fine. But if you've received a land and hold short type of clearance, then that is a very serious hold marking that you must abide by. Now it's 43. Purpose of the runway/runway hold position signs denotes the intersecting runways. A is wrong because it says denotes the intersection of the runway from a taxiway. No, that would be like runway/taxiway. B, denotes area protected for an aircraft approaching or departing a runway. It's not a bad answer, but C is just the better answer choice. Intersecting runways. 43. All right, we're coming up on 44. What does the outbound destination sign identify? The outbound destination sign. So here's our correct answer, B. It identifies direction to the takeoff runways. So if I was you trying to study for this FAA written, I would really try to hone in on the word outbound. The outbound destination sign. And then here it's talking about a takeoff runway. Well, if I'm outbound, if I want to leave this area, I want to leave this airport, get out of this airport environment, I need to eventually have a takeoff. So what does the outbound destination sign identify? It identifies the direction to that takeoff runway. A lot of these other answer choices look really, really good, but this is an FAA question. I didn't write it. I think that if you really think about the word outbound, how that's going to get your takeoff runway, that's what's going to help you out when you're doing the ABC multiple guess. Answer choice C identifies runway on which the aircraft is located. That would be more of the yellow on black. Yellow on black is where you're at. Yellow on black is where you're at. So that'd be like a location sign. So if you see something like this, that should be a yellow on black sign. Here, we're dealing with a destination sign, so it would be more about the black on yellow. A is not very great because it identifies entrance to a runway from a taxiway. That'd probably be more of a red background sign because there should be a hold short line before you get from the taxiway to the runway. 44. We're moving into 45. So we got a lot of different answer choices here. You'll probably see this one again. We're looking at our figure 65. Which airport marking is a runway safety area / obstacle free zone boundary? Whew, that's a mouthful. Which marking is a runway safety area, obstacle free boundary? And they say it's G. G is the hold short. Gosh, it really looks kind of funky. It should be a double solid, double dash. I wonder if I zoom in if it seems different to y'all. I hit Control Plus, but my browser. I don't know if I just keep pushing Control Plus a million times, if that's going to help. I don't know. Does it look like a solid to you, or does it look like a double solid or a single solid?
Single solid.
I know. What a terrible FAA picture. Well, I find it really hard to believe, but gosh, that's really what it is. And that's the figure pulled straight from the FAA book. I mean, if you guys all have complaints and you don't think that one should be counted or something like that, I could argue that for the test. This is supposed to be a double solid, double dash. So what's going on as you continue prepping for the real FAA written exam? This should be a hold short marking, and it looks like a single solid. It should be a double solid, double dash. That would be a hold short line. And what you're really trying to pick up on, which airport marking is a runway safety area / obstacle free zone boundary? So in this case, if you're moving from the bottom to the top, you would be on the dash side, you would dash through the dashes, and you would be exiting the runway, possibly into the taxiway environment. So which airport marking is a runway safety area obstacle-free zone boundary? G is the best answer here. And while we're here, let's go ahead and try to study and analyze a few of these other signages, airport signs and markings. So A, red background is called a mandatory sign. It's showing us that we're about to have a hold short, and we need to hold short because runway 4 is to our left and runway 22 is to our right. From this intersection, if you needed to back taxi to the beginning of runway 4, you would turn left and you would back taxi to get to the beginning of runway 4. If you was clear for intersection departure runway 4, you would actually turn right because then your airplane would be pointed in the heading of 040 for a takeoff. I'll try to say it the opposite way. Let's say you're approaching this sign. That means there's probably going to be a hold short painted on the pavement beneath you. It would probably be a double solid, double dash from where your position is. If air traffic control told you you're cleared to back taxi runway 2, then you would probably turn right to go all the way to the beginning of runway 22, make a 180-degree turn to take off. If they told you from this position that you are clear for intersection departure 22, you would turn a left and then you would depart from that intersection and you would not utilize full runway. So again, a red background is called a mandatory sign. And this one here would be the hold short. It's denoting the entrance to runways 4 and runway 22. That's A. B, again, it's a red sign. A red sign is a mandatory sign. It's saying that I'm about to see a hold short painted on the pavement. This case, I'm not actually about to cross a runway per se, but I'm about to cross the final approach path of runway 4. So for example, there are some airports where the taxiway might actually be located before the runway. So all of a sudden, if you taxi on this taxiway, you're not going to actually cross the runway, but you are in danger of, getting the roof of your airplane clipped by a landing aircraft if they're hugging the ground a little on the low side. You don't want their landing gear hitting the top of your airplane. So air traffic control might tell you to 41 Victor Uniform, hold short of the approach corridor for runway 4. The final approach to runway 4. So all of a sudden you'd hold short at that hold short line, and that would keep you and the landing traffic safe. So this is a red background sign. It's a mandatory sign. There'll be a hold short line marked on the pavement, and you are possibly going to put your aircraft in danger, runway incursion, due to an airplane might be trying to land and come in along the low side. So you shouldn't be there. That's B. C, red background sign, means mandatory sign. This is a mandatory sign for ILS critical area. Again, if it's VFR day, clearing a million skies, unlimited visibility, you do not have to stop at this ILS critical area. The ILS critical area is not active if it's, beautiful VFR conditions. You would see the yellow markings on the pavement that look like a ladder that signify the ILS critical area. That's C. Here's D. A lot of people think about this as a do not enter sign. This area is not designed for aircraft. So aircraft do not continue taxiing in this direction. The pavement is not designed for aircraft. Do not enter. Stay away. Do not drive your airplane beyond this sign. It's not designed for, this pavement is not designed for aircraft. All right, here we go. Echo, it says yellow on black is where you're at. So we have yellow ink on top of a black background. Yellow on black is where you're at. That is a location sign. You are located on taxiway Bravo. Here's Foxtrot F. Yellow on black is where you're at. You are located on runway 22. Back to golf. We said this was the hold short. In this case, you are on the dash side, so double solid, double dash. You dash through those, and you then would be exiting the runway environment. I'm on H, hotel. This is your ladder-looking symbol. This is the ILS critical area. Here I'm on I, India, terminal. So this is be more of a destination sign. So if your destination is the terminal, then you can make a right. It's showing you destination, where your possible destination might be, yellow background. Yellow background is kind of more of an informational sign. It's giving you information how to get to the terminal, make a right. Same idea here. If you want to get to runway 22, you make a right. Very similar idea. If I want to go to Bravo, I should make a right. Okay, here's a white ink on a black background. This is the amount of runway remaining. This is a runway distance remaining sign. There is 4,000 feet of runway remaining. HS, probably be your hold short. It's a red background. It's a mandatory sign. This is one of the tricky ones here in November. We kind of have these diagonal black stripes on top of a yellow background, if you will. And this sign is a very tricky. This means end of taxiway. You're typically going to see something like this, like if you come to a T in the road. So let's say you're on a taxiway and there's a T in the road. If it was daylight, your common sense would say, hey, don't keep driving forward into the grass because there's a T in the road. So they put this sign up because at nighttime it can be a little more tricky. So you'd see that sign and you would realize, do not continue taxiing forward. I need to make a left or a right because this is the end of the taxiway. Signs. It's a lot of signs. We have 3 questions left, 46, 47, 48. We just covered a lot of signs. Anybody have any questions on any of those signs? I'm clicking the buttons. Nobody seems to be unmuting their microphone or saying anything. All right, we're going to keep trucking. We're close. Number 46. A lighted heliport may be identified by a green, yellow, and white rotating beacon. So that's the heliport. Remember your good old-fashioned civilian airport was this green and white. If you put a yellow on top of it, now it's a heliport. 47, a military air station. So we're saying a military airport could be identified as a rotating beacon that emits 2 quick white flashes between green flashes. So it's the same idea, the beacon of the white and green, but if it's a military, then it'll be white, white, green, white, white, green. .48, when taxiing with a strong quartering tailwind, which aileron position should be used? Aileron down on the side from which the wind is blowing. So this is a quartering tailwind. A quartering tailwind is some of the most important time for you all to use your crosswind corrections. And let's say you have a quartering tailwind from the left. So the wind is coming from your back left shoulder, blowing forward to your front right. Well, you want to avoid that back left wind from getting under your wing. You want to avoid that wind from toppling over your aircraft, especially if you're a tailwheel airplane. But regardless, quartering tailwinds, wind is coming from the back left. So you want to make sure that your left aileron is down. And that's going to make it more difficult for the wind to get underneath that wing because you do not want the wind to get under there and flip you over. All right, so I did it. We made it through the test for chapter 4, and I'm going to click the buttons. See, I'll hit stop share. I think you guys see me now, and I'm going to click unmute all. So everybody has the option to talk. You know, we basically got 5 minutes left. I don't mind, you know, opening up the chapter 5. I don't mind answering other questions. What kind of feedback, thoughts do you have about all this?
Maya has her hand up.
Go for it, Maya.
So when, as far as like the airspace for Class G at night, is it always going to be, regardless of the altitude or what have you, is it always going to be the 3152 at night?
The words regardless of altitude are kind of strange. So as instructor, I say that it's going to be different above 10,000 versus less than 10,000. But I agree with you that you're probably going to see an answer of 3 miles visibility, 500 below, 1,000 above, 2,000 horizontal. What I'm doing right now is I'm going to type in FAA.gov, and I'm going to show you guys how I do this real quick. So I click my Zoom app, and I see you guys, but I want you to see my screen again. So I need to click screen share, and I click share. So do you guys see FAA.gov?
It's loading up.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, because I don't have a FAR-AIM book in front of me, so I'm showing you how to do it on the FAA's website. You click regulations and policies, and you click FAA regulations. And we're going to look up FAR's Part 91. And we're going to see if we can get our question answered here. So as Part 91 regulations load up, I'm looking for a very famous regulation called 91-155. So here's 91-155 VFR flight rules. As private pilot applicants, right here, visual flight rules, 91-151 to, 91-159. Like these right here are your bread and butter. So like these are the ones that you really want to open your FAR-AIM book, tab them out, throw a highlighter on these. These are really the meat and potatoes of some of the things you're learning. So I'm going to click here, 91-155, basic VFR weather minimums. And here it is. This is the chart. If you memorize anything in private pilot training, this is probably some of the most important stuff to memorize. It's really a bummer. I failed a real check ride because of airspace. So I want to answer Amaya's question. Amaya's question is about golf airspace. So here's all the rules for A, B, C, D, E. And here comes G, golf. And they're saying that if I am, so this says aircraft other than helicopters. That's us. Okay, cool. So 1,200 feet AGL or less. If it's daytime, 1 mile clear clouds. If it's nighttime, 3 statute miles visibility, 500 below, 1,000 feet above, 2,000 horizontal. Here's some helicopter rules. We are not helicopters, so we're not going to worry about those. Now here's some tricky ones that we had on that test. If you're more than 1,200 AGL, but less than 10,000, day, 1 statute mile, 500 below, 1,000 above, 2,000 horizontal. Night, 3 statute miles, 500 below, 1,000 feet above, 2,000 horizontal. And then here's the tricky one. Here's, like I was saying to Amaya, I hate to say the word always because the altitudes could change here. If I am more than 1,200 AGL and more than 10,000 MSL, 5 statute miles visibility, 1,000 above, 1,000 below, 1 statute mile horizontal. So I really encourage you all to, focus on this chart because it is, the rules, the regulations. And to answer Amaya's question, the answer is I agree. At nighttime in Gulf airspace, we bump up the horizontal, and whether it's day and that's just night, that's night. And then if I get above 10,000, then I see it jump up to be 5,111.
Real quick, sir, can you repeat that? Yeah.
Yeah.
You stopped and speed up.
Of course. Here's uncontrolled golf. Golf, uncontrolled. Okay. Typical day golf, less than 1,200 AGL, 1 mile clear clouds. If I'm still 1,200 AGL or less, night, now it's 3 miles visibility, 500 below, 1,000 above, 2,000 horizontal. That's the same as long as I stay less than 10,000 feet MSL. The only time it's going to change, to answer Amaya's question, is if I get above 10,000 MSL. So I don't know. Let me see if I can get my picture back so I can see Amaya again. And if that answered her questions or if we're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
It's tricky. I know. I promise I didn't invent airspace. It's not the easiest thing, but it's just one of those topics that you're not going to be able to pass a check ride without really being able to quote back all those airspace rules.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
So I realize we're running out of time. I'm not trying to cut anybody off. I know it's a new thing. If anybody has any questions, now's the time to answer them. It's just kind of like the idea like class ends at 12:30, but if anybody wants to ask any questions, I'm more than happy to answer questions. I'm not going to cut you guys off. If you got to go, I understand, but now is a great time to ask questions if anybody has them.
Let me see if I can check.
So long story short, you guys are now moving forward. Chapter 5, we're going to be getting together again through our digital Zoom meeting on Wednesday. We're going to be covering PowerPoints. You know, you guys have all sorts of assignments to keep your, independent learning going. Sure to get all your homeworks in, vocabulary words, Blackboard assignments. I uploaded this new feature called forums. We can try that. If it doesn't work very good, nobody wants to participate on the forums, then we can just go back to our normal short answer homeworks. Just whatever we can do to keep moving forward. Chapter 5 is coming up. Last call for any questions.
This might be off topic for the classroom, but is there a speculation date of when we might be able to start flying again? Because I know it got pushed back.
I know. How are we going to learn how to fly airplanes over a computer? This doesn't make sense. Gosh, I should be more serious with you. So, I'm looking
No,
at
you're
my
right.
phone and I'm looking at my calendar. My current guidance that I'm getting from the boss is April 6th. So I don't know. I'm not supposed to speculate something that I don't understand, but I tell you that the current guidance is April 6th, which is a Monday. I haven't been following it too closely. I think that the Indiana governor, issues dates about emergencies, and we're under a state of emergency. And I'm thinking that his state of emergency expires the 5th. I don't know if that corresponds with the reason why we're shooting for the 6th right now. There's possible talks of us cleaning airplanes in between students, all sorts of different things. The best resource for you is probably going to be your one-on-one flight instructor, and we'll be giving that guidance down as we hear more. At this current time, the best thing I can tell you is April 6th is a Monday. That is the current date we are shooting for. That would allow us to get into the airplanes. Realize that is fluid and changing as we know more information. If I hear anything between now and Wednesday when we get together, I'll definitely pass that on. Right now, April 6th is the best that I'm hearing. If I was you, I would really, get that, pilot oral exam guide book out, really, study that. If there's any maneuvers, chair flying. I want to answer your question. April 6th is the best answer I can give you to that question.
Okay. I do appreciate you.
I saw an update by the governor. It said we have to stay home starting Wednesday.
Yeah, especially for Marion County. They said for Marion County and people that live out in Fishers, you're on roadways unless it's emergency or like required, and then and that's like a 2-week club ball.
So I'm hearing you guys speak that there is a 2-week advisory out, how we shouldn't be trying to travel or do any non-essential items for 2 weeks, which really would correspond to that same April 6th date. So I'm wondering if maybe that's why everybody's thinking about April 6th. So I know it's interesting times. I don't have a whole lot of answers for it. I'm more than happy to shoot the breeze or let you guys stay on a chat or anything that's possible or helpful. But yeah, I can't really say I know much about, what the governor's planning or what's going on, with the world revolving our sit-in quarantines.
Copy.
So again, I'm not trying to hold you up. If anybody wants to log off, feel free. I don't mind staying on here for a few extra minutes if anybody else has any other thoughts they're wanting to express.
I think I'm good.
All right. Well, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
afternoon,
you.
everybody.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, you
See you
too.
guys.
That's